guys, so in my last video I was talking about reviewing my reading goals for the year and looking back over whether I'd achieved them or not, and in thinking about the goals that I want to make for reading in 2017, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of look at the types of books that I was reading throughout 2016 in a bit more detail. So I've kind of just gone back through and had a look at different categories to see if there was one particular way I was leaning in terms of what I tended to reach for. The most obvious one seemed to be to see how many male authors versus female authors I was reading, and it looks like I read about 34 books by male authors and 58 by female authors, and that's not an exact total because firstly it doesn't include rereads, and secondly some books were by both a male and a female author, like in the case of Illuminate or You Know Me Well, other books I read throughout the year that are by multiple authors. But in saying that, 58 to 34 female to male is not surprising to me. I think that's almost an even split, kind of, like it's not too far skewed one way or the other, and I think it is logical that I would read more female authors than male just because I'm female myself, obviously, so I guess I identify with female authors more. In terms of how many non-fiction books I read this year, I read 20 non-fiction books, which is kind of surprising to me. I know that I do kind of reach for non-fiction sometimes, it's something that I do enjoy reading, so I think 20 is a good number. I'm really pleased with that, and that's something that I want to keep up with. I really enjoy reading non-fiction because that in itself is such an expansive genre that there's so many options out there, so there's so much more non-fiction that I want to read. Now, this is one that I was particularly interested in, how many YA books I read this year, and the reason I wanted to look at this was because until I kind of fell into the BookTube community, I had never really read much YA. When I was in high school and stuff, I tended to read classics because that was what I was interested in. And there have been YA books over the years that I've read, like, for example, I guess Harry Potter is kind of children's but kind of goes into more like YA later on. Also, The Hunger Games, I read that when it came out just because the hype got to me. And there were a couple other dystopian trilogies or duologies or series that I got into, but aside from that I really didn't get into YA at all when I was actually a teenager. So this year I've been making an effort to read a lot more YA / I've just been kind of suckered into it because everyone talks about YA a lot. So I wanted to see how many YA books I'd read this year, and I'd read 49, which is approximately half of the total books that I read if you don't include rereads. So that's kind of surprising to me in a good way. I thought it would be more than 49 because I feel like all I do is read YA now, but I'm still pleased that I'm reading other stuff as well. But I'm also pleased that I've read that much YA because I've got a lot of catching up to do, obviously. Now, in terms of whether that YA is fantasy or contemporary, it's kind of an even split. It looks like I read maybe like 25 fantasy YA novels and 22 contemporaries or something like that. So that's pretty even, and I'm happy with that. Until this year, I think I'd never read a contemporary novel in my life. So I think it's impressive to me that I've read 22 now, and I really like contemporary, which surprises me because I thought all contemporary was kind of like fluff and not very meaningful and stuff like that, but actually it's often the opposite. Contemporary can be so deep and heartfelt and make you feel all the emotions, so I've been really enjoying reading contemporaries this year. In terms of how many classics, and I'm grouping it with literary fiction to me, in terms of when I feel like reading classics or literary fiction, I'm usually choosing between one or the other. I don't read a whole lot of either at the same time because they feel kind of the same to me. So that's why I've grouped them together. But all in all, I only read 10 literary fiction or classic novels. So that to me is surprisingly low, and I think that's just because that is all I used to read at all. So yeah, not that many. And I think that in the next year I'm going to want to read more classics, especially. I think literary fiction, I'm going to get enough of that from uni that I'm not going to feel the need to read like a lot more, but classics, definitely. There are, even though I used to read so many classics, there are a lot more that I have on my list that I've not got around to yet that I'm really excited for. So definitely want to read more of those. 10 was pretty low. And yeah, that's kind of all of the little like stats that I wanted to go over. I hope you guys found this video interesting. Let me know if you do a quick search on your Goodreads what your like stats were for the year, because it's very interesting to me to see where people kind of reach for in terms of their reading. And I guess all of this stuff also is kind of subconscious. I don't tend, as you saw with my resolutions review, even if I set goals, I don't really go out and like try and reach them. So for me, I think reading, I don't really focus on these things of like what gender the author is or what genre the book is or anything like that. I tend to not think about it until later, but it's still interesting because I guess it's that subconscious thing of like what you're interested in. So yeah, interesting anyway. And thank you guys for watching this. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe if you want to. I upload 2 times a week, and my Goodreads, Twitter and Instagram is linked down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you next time, which will be my bookish resolutions for 2017. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.